so far, so you've learned how to use mutate for creating and changing columns and summarize for summary tables. And so far, we've mainly done that with just one variable. And I want to quickly show you how to do that really conveniently for a range of different variables. So for that, we can use a cross. So a cross is something that we would use within mutate or within summarize. And the cool thing about a cross is then that when you use it, you can use these helpers that we learned about with select. So starts with, ends with, contains, and so on. You can use them within a cross. So let's say for the self-paced reading, we have word num and sentence num, so sentence number. Let's say we want to see the mean for both these variables. So we can just use summarize here. And then we can use a cross, and then in a cross we can say ends with num, right? So we can say do this summary for all variables that end with this. So let's run that. Of course, you know, sentence number and word number is not the most interesting variable. It's just a convenient example we had in the data. Right, so now we can see we have sentence num, and this is now the average, and word num, and this is now the average. Okay, so we have a cross, and then in a cross you can use ends with, starts with, contains, and so on. And this is also possible. So if you want the mean and the standard deviation, for example, you can use mean, comma, SD within this C syntax that we keep seeing if we are looking at several things. So here now we have the mean for sentence number, standard deviation, and the same for word. That's the mean and that's the standard deviation. So that's a cross with summarize, right? So the point is that it lets you quickly select variables to then summarize. And a similar thing is possible in mutate. And here it's especially useful if you want to quickly convert a lot of different variables. So convert them to a different data type. So we're working with fairly small data frames, but you might have to work with data frames that have a lot of columns. And if you need to type 20, 30 different mutate statements to convert something to a factor or to numeric, that can get kind of annoying. So we can use a cross in mutate. So here, the idea is that we want to take everything that is a character at the moment, and we would like to convert all of these variables to factors. So here we're using mutate and we're using a cross. And when we're checking for data types, we have to use where. So across where is characters, that means across all the variables that are characters at the moment. And then what change do we want? We want them to be changed to factors. Okay. So now we can see everything here is a factor, even the sentence, which we didn't change before, right? And you could, of course, that would also work with any other data type. Yeah, and here is another little cartoon that shows you again how this works, and this actually has a group by. So here we're using a group by species, so this is different species, and they have some variables associated with them, how much they weigh, how old they are, and so on. And here you can use summarize across all the numeric variables. So show the mean for all the numeric variables. And because we have a group by, it would do it for every group separately. Okay, so that's a cross. Right, so let's have another look at our questionnaire data. So this animal survey data. And here we have a couple of variables that all start with animals. So we have animals cute. So how cute do you think animals are? How much do you like to look at animals, pet them? And would you like to have a pet, right? So these 4 columns, and what we would like to do is actually add or average all of these. So for each person, so a row here is a person in this data frame, we would like to have one variable that gives us the average of these 4 columns. So we talked about group by. So group by gives these groupings in the data. So do everything separately for each species, for example. And here, what we do instead is row-wise. So what that tells R is do something row by row. So do something separately for each row in the data. And we have to tell R to do that because it usually likes to do everything by column, so kind of column by column. And here we would like to do something row by row. So we need to use row-wise, kind of like group by itself. That doesn't do anything. We need to add that here and then pipe and move on. And then we need mutate because we want to create a new column. So the new column should be pet interest. And what we want in pet interest is the mean across everything that starts with animals. Right? So here again, what we're doing is we're using row-wise to tell R do everything row by row, so separately for each row. And then our new column should be pet interest. We want the mean of columns that start with animals, right? And here you'll actually see it's not across, but it's this C underscore across. So you have to use C underscore across when you're using row-wise. Okay, that's just how it works. If you're using row-wise, you have to use C across instead of just across.